Today's topic is project planning and evaluation. Modules to follow include Master Gardener volunteers are noted for their enthusiasm about gardening and volunteering in their communities. They often get excited about project ideas and they want to get started right away in getting others to help. As a program coordinator, you need to develop a project planning system to evaluate all the project ideas to make sure that Master Gardeners are responding to an educational need. Remember the presentation on Extension's organizational framework? Master Gardener projects need to further Extension's mission of advancing knowledge, economic well-being, and quality of life for people, organizations, and communities. Your project planning system may be a simple form that you or Master Gardeners fill out before starting a new project, or it could involve a project selection committee to review and evaluate all new project ideas. Whether the Master Gardener program is supported through public funding or grants or money earned locally, we have to be able to answer and document the question, so what? We want to show the effect that Master Gardeners have in their communities, like how it improves people's lives and the environment they live in. For every project, new or existing, Master Gardener program coordinators should identify the results or the outcomes they expect. We do this to demonstrate positive changes our program brings to our community, to justify the support of state, county, federal, or private funds, to provide talking points for legislators and others to lobby for more or sustained funding, and it serves as an outline for grant applications or accomplishment reports. When you plan a class or a project, your goal is to teach good horticultural practices to others in your community. Ideally, we want participants in our classes or activities to increase their knowledge about a topic, understand why the topic is important, and that may involve changing their attitude about it, and adopt recommended gardening practices in their own gardens. That's a behavior change. Knowledge and attitude are short-term outcomes that can be evaluated at the end or shortly after a class or event is held. Behavior is a medium-term outcome that should be evaluated several months after a class, when participants have had time to put their knowledge into practice. The state program leader tries to determine a larger statewide impact using the reports collected from all county Master Gardener programs, along with research that demonstrates the impact that are achieved by changes in knowledge, attitude, and behavior. Start your project planning the smart way by planning with a purpose. Ask yourself and your volunteers these 4 questions. Who wants to have this particular project or class or activity done in the community? What's the result you want when it's finished? For example, do you want a better understanding of an environmental issue, or do you want new skills acquired by community residents, or do you want money saved by following certain practices? Who's going to benefit? And how will you know that you accomplished the desired results, and what evaluation tools will you use to show that? These are some other questions you might need to ask depending on your situation and the type of project you're considering. Are there enough volunteers to successfully complete your project? Will there be interest in maintaining the project if it's long-term? Is the project financially feasible? Let's talk about some examples using the 4 questions in the previous slide. A display booth at a home and garden show will have benefits that apply to Master Gardeners as well as the community. Master Gardeners want to have a booth at this show to promote the educational value of the Master Gardener program, and they want to provide handouts to attendees on using fewer chemicals in their yards. People will learn about services the Master Gardener program has, and attendees will learn ways to reduce the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. The Master Gardener program will benefit from more people learning about the Master Gardener program and using their services. The attendees will benefit from learning how to have healthy yards without overusing products. Over time, the environment will benefit if reduced use of chemicals occurs in many yards. Master Gardener volunteers will interview attendees after they leave the booth area and ask what they knew about the Master Gardener program before they visited the booth. They'll also ask a few questions about the value of using fewer chemicals. In this example, people at a home show are on the move, so you can't use a detailed survey tool. The volunteers who interview people who leave the booth area should be friendly, quick, and have a few short questions to read from a clipboard. They could give the interviewees a piece of candy or a seed packet to show appreciation to the people who took the time to talk with them. Here's the information from the previous slide in chart format. This class series is being developed in response to community government's request that residents conserve water, particularly in their landscapes. By providing classes on water-wise gardening, residents who use the techniques will benefit financially, the Master Gardener program will benefit from their partnership with the city, and the community will benefit because less water is wasted. Participants' learning will be evaluated at the end of each class, and whether they actually use the techniques they learned will be determined by follow-up surveys. City officials want people to start conserving water. The class series will teach the need for water conservation gardening methods that can reduce water use in yards. Residents will learn about and incorporate the gardening methods to reduce their water use. Residents will benefit from lower water bills. The city will see Extension as a partner in addressing important issues. Reduction of water use will protect water quality and lessen the use of precious water resources. The community as a whole will benefit if large numbers of residents adopt water-wise methods. Surveys will be given out and collected at the end of each class to see if people's attitudes or knowledge level changed. Follow-up emails and phone calls will be made 6 months after the series to find out if participants applied any of the water conservation methods in their yards. Here's the information from the previous slide in chart format. Most people who work in health and senior services are aware that gardening provides many positive benefits, but they often don't know how to adapt gardening methods for older people or for people who have some type of disability. Healthcare staff want information on garden design and adaptive gardening tools and techniques that will enable people with physical, sensory, or cognitive disabilities to safely engage in gardening. Staff will learn gardening techniques that are appropriate for a variety of disabilities. They'll also learn methods of adapting existing garden tools, and they'll find out about resources for obtaining specially designed tools. And then they'll be able to offer adaptive gardening programs to their clientele. Seniors and disabled people will begin or continue to garden successfully. They'll benefit from improved mobility and stamina. They'll have increased feelings of well-being due to interacting with nature and plants, and they'll enhance their socialization. Pre- and post-workshop surveys for staff, personal interviews with participants, follow-up surveys at 6 months, and 1 year of both staff and clientele. By giving the staff information about adaptive gardening, master gardeners enable them to offer gardening programs that meet the needs of their clients or their residents. And because this is an ongoing project that involves staff and clients, the evaluation process is more detailed, and it takes place in several steps. Here's the information from the previous slide in chart format. Let's take a more detailed look at project planning component to consider for any project. Why are you doing the project? What need in the community are you addressing? And who needs or wants the project to be done? What's needed to complete the project? What supplies and materials or financial resources will be required? How many volunteers will you need? What other office staff will be involved? What will be done to reach or involve project participants? What do you intend to accomplish? What results should occur as a result of your project? Identify which of the results are short-term, medium-term, and long-term. How will you know whether you've accomplished the intended outcomes? At what stages during the project will you evaluate? You could hand out a survey in the last few minutes of a class or event, or maybe you'll collect email addresses or phone numbers and contact people weeks or months afterward, see how much information stuck with them or what they started doing since taking the call. At big events like a tour or a garden demonstration, ask your Master Gardener volunteers with evaluation questions on clipboards to interview attendees. The Master Gardener Project Selection Form will help you define aspects of prospective projects. You can access this on the Master Gardener website under Tools for Program Management. When someone proposes a new project, whether it's a Master Gardener or a community member, have them fill this out to help them determine if the project is appropriate for Master Gardeners to engage in. Remember, volunteers like to know why they're doing things, so involve them in the planning and evaluation process. In terms of motivation, it encourages a sense of belonging. It proves that their time and their efforts are not being wasted, and it satisfies their desire to achieve worthwhile and noticeable results. Seeing that one's actions make a difference in other people's lives is a powerful incentive to continue volunteering. We talked a little about evaluation in relationship to project planning, but let's look more closely at these components of evaluating your own classes and projects. To know that you've achieved the desired results, you want to collect two types of data in the evaluation process. First is the numbers information. This includes the number of volunteers and how many volunteer hours were contributed. You also want to know the number of activities and how many people attended the activities. Second is the results information. This includes the outcomes of the project, such as what participants learned, how they used the information, what difference the program made to them. Don't wait until the project is completed to start collecting that data. Identify certain points in the project where information could be collected from participants and get volunteer buy-in to collect data. Talk to your volunteers about why this data is needed. Make it easy for them to collect it. Design evaluation tools that are ready to be used when needed, and remind them to use the evaluations tools at the points that you've identified. There are a number of evaluation tools to consider. Which tool you use depends on the type of information you need to get. There are pre- and post-event questionnaires. Question participants before and after a class or a project to find out short-term comparison information about learning and attitudes. You can use surveys, mail, email, or telephone contact with recipients of your volunteer services. Your surveys can address short and medium-term outcomes. You can interview people. Ask individuals or small groups to report their personal experiences and observations about a class, an event, or a project. Interviews can also address both short-term and medium-term outcomes. Use focus groups. Ask a group of people about their perceptions, opinions, and attitudes about your project. Focus groups are typically used for medium or long-term evaluation. And there are records, reviewing and summarizing data or reports from a collection source. Records are most often used to determine long-term impact. Changes in learning or attitude can be measured fairly quickly, usually right after a class or event. The preferred method of measuring the degree of learning is the pre- and post-program evaluation. By asking questions before and after the event, you can determine the extent to which participants gained knowledge. Ask specific questions about key learning goals that address the results you're trying to achieve. For example, ask participants to name 2 water-saving methods they learned in the class. This is better than asking a vague question like, "What did you learn?" You can also ask questions about participants' change in attitude about a topic. For example, ask children how they feel about eating fresh vegetables before a youth gardening program, and then ask them again after the program ends. Attitude changes on a topic can lead to more permanent changes in a participant's behavior. To evaluate medium-term outcomes, such as if participants have applied the things they learned, sending out a survey. Appropriate amount of time to elapse between the event and the assessment. The amount and nature of your program. Some behavior change occurs quickly, such as changing the frequency of watering lawns. Other behavior, such as selecting disease-resistant tomato plants, will require more time to implement. As with all evaluation tools, be sure the questions you ask reflect the goals of your project. On your survey, ask similar questions to the post-program evaluation that address behavior. Which of the following water-saving practices have you used since attending the class? And remember to avoid vague questions, such as, have you conserved water since you attended our class? Impacts are statements about documented changes in conditions, such as quality of life, or improved economic or environmental situations. Impact occurs as the result of a sustained behavior. You may not be able to evaluate long-term outcomes that result from your projects because they require the passing of some time to develop. However, the State Master Gardener Program Leader can document long-term outcomes through published research that links changes in behavior to changes in conditions. Evaluating what effect your classes have on community participants is important for end-of-the-year reports. Your county reports contribute to a State Master Gardener report. These reports are crucial for the Master Gardener program because they justify the support of public funds. They provide talking points for legislators to get us funding, and they document yearly program progress. You need to evaluate all aspects of your program. Evaluations help you to improve your trainings and workshops. There are many template evaluations available on the Master Gardener website under Tools for Program Management. You can evaluate public events such as workshops, trainings, demonstrations, and information events. Volunteer training evaluations include evaluation of online basic training is conducted at the state level, but you may want to do your own evaluation and determine the success of your associated classroom teaching. Evaluate continuing education opportunities that are provided to Master Gardener veterans. Make sure they're meeting the educational goals that you've set. Remember, though, a successful Master Gardener program is not measured by how much Master Gardeners learn, but by how much the Master Gardeners are able to teach others. All county Master Gardener program coordinators submit an end-of-the-year report to the state program leader. One of the pieces of information you need is the number of people involved in your projects. Throughout the year, you should compile information on people you have taught to raise food, those who have learned sustainable gardening practices, the diversity in your audiences, and the money those audiences may have saved or earned as a result of your community education. Food gardening might include the numbers from community gardens or food bank gardens, school gardens, pounds of food produce donated to the community, and new gardeners who learned to grow food. Sustainable practices you could report include the number of people who practice water-wise techniques, who use water quality protection measures, who use IPM methods for pest problems, and practicing proper tree maintenance. Audience diversity might include recording the number of youth who use gardening skills, low-income residents and people with disabilities who use horticulture practices, along with culturally diverse participants who garden. Numbers documenting money saved or money earned might include the number of people who grow their own food, who use fewer chemicals, who grow plants to sell, or who are employed in horticulture. This information should be collected throughout the year, and that means document these numbers during your project implementation. and then make sure to send them to the state program leader at the end of the year. The next presentation in the Program Management Skills module is hosting a class.